Hey everyone, Diavolo here, and in today's video we are going to be going over all of the deaths of importance from throughout the entirety of Demon Slayer, though I do want to say that this will only be including the characters that have died during the current time period and not during the past. As well, there are literally hundreds of people who died during the past. So with all of that said, if you are new around here and want to watch similar explained videos just like this, but for a variety of different series, then make sure you hit that subscribe button and also be sure to leave a like on the video. But anyway, enough of that. Let's get into all of the deaths that have happened throughout this enthralling and utterly insane story that is Demon Slayer. So sadly, the first deaths of this story just happen to be no other than almost the entire bloodline of the Kamado family. Sadly, while Tanjiro was out in town, the progenitor of demons, Muzan Kibutsuji, had managed to actually track down the Kamado family household and had tried to use a small amount of his blood to turn them all into demons. After thinking that he had killed them all, he stated, "So they die from an ejection of this much blood. I cannot easily make a demon who can conquer the sun." Obviously not actually realizing that he hadn't actually killed Nezuko, who later went on to conquer the sun, or that Tanjiro wasn't even home. Sadly though, he did take the lives of Kai, Taikyo, Hanako, Shigeru, and Rokuta Kamado, making that technically the 5 first deaths that happened throughout the beginning of the final selection arc. The first demon that Tanjiro himself killed with the help of a recently transformed Nezuko doesn't have a specific name, but goes by Temple Demon. This is because the demon had been attacking travelers who took shelter in a small temple hut on the pathway that led to Sakonji's place. During an intense fight, Tanjiro and Nezuko managed to take the upper hand by pushing the body of the demon off a cliff, leaving the head Nezuko had literally kicked off alone. As Tanjiro prepares a knife to finish off the demon's head, he struggles to come to terms with taking another life, until a man in a Tengu mask appears and tells Tanjiro that he cannot finish a demon off using a simple knife. Still not completely understanding this, Tanjiro believes crushing the demon's head with a rock will suffice, but he cannot bring himself to brutally end the creature. Instead, the demon curses at Tanjiro until the sun rises and he begins disintegrating into ash. The next and final death that happens throughout the final selection arc is one that truly, for the first time, pushed Tanjiro to his physical limits, this being the Hand Demon, who was a demon who was previously captured by a young Sakonji to be the final obstacle in the test. The Hand Demon later killed 13 of Sakonji's apprentices because of a grudge that he held against the retired Slayer. This included Sabito and Mikomo, as well as at least 50 other would-be demon slayers. In the final moments of the battle, the desperate Hand Demon tried solidifying the defenses around his neck to prevent death, but Tanjiro uses the water-breathing first form Water Surface Slash to decapitate the demon, who is left in complete shock and horror. The attack completely severs the multiple-limbed foe's head, who begins panicking over his encroaching death. Assuming that Tanjiro would look at him with disgust, he is instead shocked to see his eyes fill with sorrow. The demon then extends his arm out to his opponent, who respectfully clutches it as the demon crumbles away into nothing. Moving forward to the next fatality of the series, we dive into Tanjiro's first mission that him along with a hypnotized Nezuko took part in. However, before the main battle of the arc takes place, the human Sakoto is seen walking together with her fiancé Kazumi, when she suddenly gets sucked through the ground by the Swamp Demon, who quickly kills and devours her, adding her hairpin to his collection. Funnily enough, the next death just happens to be this swampy fool of a demon who thought he could stand up to a main character. So this demon does actually have 3 individual forms based off its horn's placement. In Tanjiro's first fight against a 3-horned and 2-horned demon, a swamp portal opens beneath them as a distraction while the 2-horned demon went after the girls. Tanjiro asked Nezuko to continue protecting Kazumi while he dove underground. The 2 demons inside the swamp believed that Tanjiro would be struggling to move or breathe, and that he is a fool for diving in. They tried swimming at him at high speed, but the demons dart away at a sharp angle just as Tanjiro is about to counterattack. The demons try and rush him again, but Tanjiro can smell the opening. He uses a technique that can be unleashed with an unstable footing, a slicing vortex called the water-breathing 6th form Whirlpool. The attack completely slashes apart both the demons' bodies, killing them instantly. After this happens, the last remaining swamp demon falls over and realizes its other selves have been killed. The demon tries to defend its actions, but after Tanjiro shows up, Tanjiro presses his blade close to the demon and forces him back against a fence. He demands to know all the information the demon has on Muzan. However, hearing this, he cowers and trembles, claiming that he cannot say anything. The scent of fear is so strong that the demon acts out of panic, growing his arms back and lashing out at Tanjiro, forcing him to cut off his head, finally ending the demon as he disintegrates. Now we move more into the story and head to Asakusa, Tokyo, for Tanjiro and his second mission with the Demon Slayer Corps. After spotting Tanjiro, Muzan, who is outraged by the appearance of a Demon Slayer wearing Hanafuda earrings, summoned two of his followers, Yahaba and Susamaru, to hunt him down. Yahaba used his Blood Demon art to track his movements and found out that there were actually two more people traveling with him. While Susamaru is enjoying handball, Yahaba notices the Demon Slayer is actually accompanied by three demons. Yahaba takes a supporting role in the assault, hiding up in a tree away from the action. He uses the Kotetsu arrows to guide the Temari ball, tearing up the house and even managing to take off the head of the young demon boy, Yushiro, who manages to regenerate and survive though. Tanjiro takes on Yahaba alone, while the others fight Susamaru. He smells an opening thread on the arrow demon, but it snaps as soon as Yahaba activates his ability. Yahaba forces Tanjiro on the defensive with his arrows and wraps one around him. However, Tanjiro flips out of the way. Yahaba believes that he has control of the battle and calls the Demon Slayer a monkey for his acrobatics. The arrow demon tries to force Tanjiro away by activating his arrows, but only manages to make his sword extremely heavy. Even so, Tanjiro manages to slash the blade and decapitates Yahaba with the water-breathing second form improved lateral water wheel. Over with Nezuko in her battle with an annoyed Susamaru, they kick the Temari ball back and forth at incredible speeds, where Nezuko proves that she is growing in strength by the second. Impressed, Susamaru decides to go all out against Nezuko, but Tamio interrupts asking Susamaru about Muzan. Enraged, she tries to defend her master's honor, but accidentally says his name out loud. Her brain function was inhibited by Tamio's blood art, which was secretly cast across the area, forcing Susamaru to tell the truth. She runs away and begs for her forgiveness from her lord. However, having invoked his name out loud, Muzan's curse takes a hold of Susamaru and three demonic arms spawn from her body. The arms crush Susamaru's body completely, leaving only her eye and a pool of blood. The sun rises later and the remains of her is completely disintegrated. Making our way further into the story to the drum or mansion arc, where we find ourselves finally meeting the lifelong companions and the best friends of Tanjiro. Firstly, the wimpy creep Zenitsu Agatsuma, and secondly, the Lord of the Mountains and beast-breathing genius Inosuke Hashibira. Sticking with the weird demon names, during their battle inside of the drum mansion, Zenitsu tells Soichi to refrain from making any loud noises to avoid attracting any demons. Sadly though, the creepy Tounge Demon shows up behind the duo. Zenitsu desperately tells the demon to stay back as they try to escape it. As the demon chases the duo into a room, he sees a now sleeping Zenitsu moving into a stance for the thunder breathing. Zenitsu gets ready to decapitate the Tounge Demon, and without hesitation, he uses the thunder breathing first form, thunderclap and flash, landing a direct slice through the demon's neck, causing his head to fall to the ground and begin disintegrating. At the same time, the Horn Demon ambushes Inosuke. Luckily though, the Slayer hastily retreats, leaping away. Slowly, the demon rounds the corner and threatens to devour Inosuke, who excitedly attacks and immediately removes both of its arms before it can finish its sentence. Inosuke then beheads the demon with his beast-breathing third fang, Devour. Elsewhere in the mansion, Tanjiro continues his battle against the former lower rank 6, Kyogai. At first, Tanjiro struggles due to the injuries he sustained in the previous battle in Asakusa. After regaining his spirit, Tanjiro is able to adapt to the changes by changing the form of his own water techniques. He also respects the writings of Kyogai, trying not to trample them while fighting, even going on to complement the demon's own blood demon art, before he finally finished his technique and severed the demon's head. Kyogai ended up dying in peace, knowing his talents were actually acknowledged by someone. Leaving the drum mansion, we actually start heading uphill towards the one and only Natagumo mountain arc, which holds the beloved and beautiful episode 19 from the anime. So I'm going to start skipping over some of the more vast deaths that happen throughout this story here as well, because a lot of deaths just seem to happen, like literally tons of unnamed demon slaves that put their lives on the line for the sake of mankind died during battles throughout these arcs. So during the first battle that takes place on the mountain, both Tanjiro and Inosuke gets into a battle against the so-called Mother Spider Demon. After a heated battle with the Mother, Inosuke throws Tanjiro up into the sky towards her from above. Trying to figure out her next move in order to survive, she realizes that if she simply dies, then she will finally be at peace and no longer have to suffer the wrath and ridicule of her fake family. Witnessing the mother spider demon accept her death, Tanjiro changes the grip on his Nichiren blade and uses the water-breathing fifth form, Blessed Rain, after the drought on the demon, beheading her mercifully, where she peacefully disintegrates afterwards. Elsewhere on the mountain, the Sun Spider Demon continued his assault against Zenitsu, with yet another spewing of venom. He ordered his mini spiders to envenom the Demon Slayer, which was dodged, but he noted that the overexertion was causing his opponent to vomit blood, which prompted him to label Zenitsu as useless. However, Zenitsu prepared to resume his attack while the demon retreated back into his house, letting loose another spray of venom, but Zenitsu's enhanced thunderclap and flash technique cut through him, severing his neck, leaving the demon in an utter disbelief that Zenitsu had actually defeated him. Over with Inosuke and his battle against the father spider demon, Inosuke attempts to sever the spider demon's neck with his beast-breathing third fang Devour, only for his blades to shatter upon contact. Immediately, the demon counterattacks, sending Inosuke hurling into a tree, and then picks up the Slayer by his throat. While readying another punch, the father demon repeats an earlier demand, only to be stabbed in the throat by a resilient Inosuke. Unfazed, the demon tightens his grip on the youth's throat, but he has his forearm severed once more, this time by the arrival of Giyu Tomioka. Howling in pain, the father demon immediately regrows his arm, charging at Giyu. However, his offense and existence are soon erased as Giyu strikes him with the water-breathing fourth form, Striking Tide, severing his neck and cutting him into multiple pieces. While Giyu is eliminating the father, Tanjiro continues his battle against the first major threat of the series, one of the 6 lower rank Kazuki, more specifically, the lowest of the 6, Rui. After an insanely tough fought fight in which both Tanjiro and Nezuko unleash new abilities, Tanjiro with his broken blade manages to use the effects of Nezuko's new blood demon art to slice through and decapitate the lower rank demon. However, as they fall to the ground in exhaustion after thinking that they had defeated the threat, he realizes that Rui wasn't giving off the ash-like smell that demons usually would. Rui then reveals how he quickly cuts his own head with his threads before Tanjiro could. Rui reattaches his head, and just as Tanjiro was about to be cut into pieces, he is also saved by the water Hashira, Giyu Tomioka. Infuriated that one more demon slayer had shown up, Rui prepares his most powerful attack, Blood Demon Art, Cutting Thread Rotation. But in retaliation, Giyu uses the total concentration, water-breathing 11th form, Dead Calm, to block it, nullifying the attack. Rui is shocked that Giyu just nullified his most powerful attack, seemingly without even trying. He tries to attack Giyu with more threads, but before he could do so, Rui's head is decapitated with one simple slash. The final battle and death of the mountain arc takes place between Shinobu and the naughty daughter of the spider demon. Shinobu, being the insect Hashira, quickly bypasses the demon and attacks her simultaneously, landing her own insect-breathing, butterfly dance, caprice attack on the demon. Shinobu laments on the demon's poor choice, turning and subsequently watching as the creature collapses. Shinobu tells the creature not to let her guard down just because she cannot cut the demon's head off. She explains that she utilizes poison as her weapon instead. Shinobu then introduces herself as the insect Hashira of the Demon Slayer Corps. As all of this happens though, the daughter demon at first thinks that Shinobu's butterfly dance caprice did not behead her. However, she soon starts bleeding from several spots on her forehead, her chest, her mouth, and her arms. By the time Shinobu fully introduces herself, the daughter demon is effectively lying dead on the floor, her body twisted in agony with several wounds. She later disintegrates after the sun rises. Moving further into the story, we literally come across the culling of the rest of these pathetic lower rank demons. This takes place throughout the rehabilitation arc. The first of the lower ranks to bite the dust here was the new lower rank 6, Kamanue. While Muzan lectured them about how it had been hundreds of years since the upper ranks were last replaced, yet the lower ranks seemed to constantly need replacing, Kamanue thinks to himself that he can't just tell them that, not realizing that Muzan is actually capable of reading the minds of those he has shared blood with. Muzan angrily asks Kamanue why they couldn't be told that. He then expands and extends his arm into a tentacle to grab the lower rank by his neck. A terrified Kamanue attempts to apologize, but is promptly eaten by Muzan, killing him. With all of the confusion going down between the lower ranks, Muzan again repeats aloud their thoughts, and a terrified lower rank 4, Mukago, exclaims that what she thought isn't true. Muzan asks her if she is denying what he was saying, and as Mukago begins to apologize and cry, another blow of Muzan's tentacles crush her into the ground, killing her. Shocked by this, Wakuraba, the lower rank 3, immediately assumes the worst and decides it would be a wiser choice to flee than stay if he wanted to keep his life. He dashes out of the Infinity Castle at a high speed, and Enmu thinks to himself that that was a stupid move to make, since Muzan will kill him either way. The conclusion turns out to be correct, as Wakuraba's head is swiftly chopped off, so fast that it leaves him wondering what exactly had gone down in his final moments. As one of the 2 lower ranks left alive, Rokuro panics, exclaiming that he can definitely still be useful to Muzan if he just defers his death for a little while longer. Muzan then asks for specifics, like exactly how long lower 2 was asking for. Rokuro explains that if he just had more of Muzan's blood, then he can adapt it and definitely become a stronger fighter. Muzan angrily tosses Wakuraba's head down next to Enmu and Rokuro, asking the lower rank 2 why he should be given more blood based upon his order, and saying that he should know where he stands. Rokuro tries to protest, but Muzan silences him and says that since he had attempted to instruct his leader, Rokuro deserved to die. He then killed him. This left Enmu as the only remaining lower rank Kazuki. However, the next death, we stick with Enmu and continue on our story into the Mugen train arc of Demon Slayer. During the battle on the train, Enmu manages to initiate his plan to fuse into the train and subsequently turn into some sort of moving organism. After both Tanjiro and Inosuke manage to overcome Enmu's blood demon art, the whispers of forced unconscious hypnosis, Inosuke falls towards the engine of the train, realizing that that is the area that they need to attack. And with the momentum of the fall, along with his swordsmanship, Inosuke uses the beast-breathing 4th fang slice and dice to cut away the flesh that protects the neckbone for Tanjiro. With Enmu's neck exposed, Tanjiro pleads to his father to help him defeat the lower rank, and with that, he transitions between the water-breathing and the Hinokami Kagura. He uses the Hinokami Kagura, clear blue sky, severing Enmu's head, truly killing him. After the death of Enmu, a moment of pure peace happens before a complete storm washes through and reminds us all of what the true power of someone who has pushed themselves to their utmost limits is. Sadly, in one of the most hype and literally nail-biting fights between the upper rank 3, Akaza, and the flame Hashira, Kyojuro Rengoku, we say goodbye to one of the pillars that literally holds the entire Demon Slayer core together. During the heated battle, the 2 clash one final time, with Kyojuro using his flame-breathing 9th form Purgatory against Akaza's destructive death annihilation type. However, when the dust disperses, it reveals that Akaza had managed to punch his arm through Kyojuro's stomach. As Kyojuro coughs up spurts of blood, he summons the last of his strength to swing his sword into Akaza's neck. Kyojuro lets out a shout as he drives his sword deeper in, and Akaza tries to hit him with a punch to the face, but the Hashira grabs his wrist and stops the attack before it reaches him. Akaza begins panicking after seeing the sun starting to rise and tries to free himself from Kyojuro's hold, but the Hashira holds on tightly to his wrist, not letting him escape. With a loud shout of effort, Akaza tries to again pull himself away from Kyojuro, but he again fails as Kyojuro's blade moves in deeper and deeper. Tanjiro yells to Inosuke to move again for Kyojuro's sake, and just as the boar-headed Demon Slayer readies his beast-breathing first fang, Pierce, Akaza manages to pull himself away from Rengoku, leaving Kyojuro to fall onto his knees, defeated. Sadly, the Flame Hashira passed away not much longer after this moment, leaving Tanjiro with words that he held on to for the rest of the entire story. Keep your heart burning. After the Mugen train incident, Tanjiro and the other young Demon Slayers healed up and then began training at the Butterfly Mansion before subsequently joining Tengen Uzui, the Sound Hashira, in an attempt to find and rescue his 3 wives, who had disappeared in an extremely flashy district, known as the one and only Entertainment District. So 2 days before the Demon Slayers had started their battle against the demons inside of the entertainment district, Omitsu, who was the manager of the Kyogoku house, in typical manager fashion had called out Daki, or as she knew her, Wakuraba, on her attitude and her behaviour to the other people of the house. After a short but heated conversation between the two, Daki reveals her demonic form to Omitsu and carries her up into the night sky, before letting her go, sending her falling to her death where others would find her on the ground below. When it comes to the main threats of this arc, after an extremely long fought fight, one in which everyone there manages to show an impressive amount of growth, Zenitsu is stuck fighting against his sister demon Daki, while at the exact same time, both Tengen and Tanjiro are fighting against the disgusting Gyutaro. Daki can be seen resisting Zenitsu's attempt to decapitate her. She attempts to use her obi to kill Zenitsu at close range, but Inosuke unexpectedly rushes up, revealing that he earlier had protected his heart from being stabbed by rearranging his organs, before proceeding to assist Zenitsu in decapitating Daki. The boys let out a roar as they muster out their strength to slice through the demon's neck. At almost an exact same time, Tanjiro brings his blade down on the upper rank. Gyutaro immediately retaliates by stabbing Tanjiro in the jaw, inwardly mocking him and continuing to belittle him. Tanjiro though focuses all of his strength in his body into his sword, unknowingly activating his Demon Slayer mark as he screams out. Though not seemingly worried at first, Gyutaro was then left horrified and panicking as he saw his sister sharing the same fate as him. After the long battle, Zenitsu and Inosuke manage to decapitate Daki up on the rooftop, while Tanjiro can be seen decapitating Gyutaro simultaneously on the ground. Because the trio managed to slice both heads at the exact same time, this resulted in the death of the upper rank 6, Gyutaro, and his sister demon, Daki. After the end of the Entertainment District arc, Tanjiro travels to the swordsmith village to replace his sword because his swordsmith, Haganezuka, is tired of actually repairing it. However, Tanjiro, along with Genya Shinazugawa, Nezuko, the Mr. Shira Muichiro Tokito, and finally the Love Hashira Mitsuri Kanroji, are pitted up against the upper rank 5 Gyokko and the extremely emotional upper rank 4 Hantengu. During the battle between the Mr. Shira and the upper rank 5, they continuously yell and start insulting each other, with Gyokko growing furious after Muichiro had insulted his pots. With this, he uses his blood demon art, 10,000 gliding slime fish, but Muichiro easily counters it with his mist breathing, 6th form lunar dispersing mist, and then follows it up with his mist breathing 3rd form scattering mist splash, slicing the head of the demon's molt as he escapes into a tree as well. When Gyokko tries to show off his new form, Muichiro's indifferent attitude towards it enrages him, and he engages in another attack, which Muichiro dodges easily and then smiles, commenting on the uselessness of his offense. Another scuffle between the two ensues, with Gyokko using his blood demon art, Killerfish Scales, and Muichiro responding with the form he personally developed, his own, mist-breathing 7th form Obscuring Clouds. When Gyokko becomes confused and tries to find him in a sea of mist, Muichiro effortlessly decapitates him, leaving him to disintegrate on the ground. Elsewhere, at a similar time in the village, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and Genya are desperately trying to chase down what they suspect to be the real Hantengu, while Kenroji also does her best to hold off his emotion demons, which have ended up forming into one more powerful hatred demon, which, to put it extremely simply for those who haven't seen my other videos, are different parts of Hantengu's emotions that take different forms of the demon, so that the real Hantengu, or the cowardice version of himself, can stay hidden and out of the battle to ever prevent dying. In the end though, Tanjiro manages to behead him using the Hinokami Kagura Flame Dance. However, as per usual, continuing with the coward-like behaviour of Hantengu, the head Tanjiro just cut was not the real Hantengu, proven as the headless body of Hantengu continues to run away. The sun is about to rise though, and Tanjiro is put in an extremely difficult predicament, whether to chase after the upper rank 4 or save his sister Nezuko from the sunlight. But in the end, he finally decides to continue in his pursuit of the demon, or should I say that Nezuko's sacrifice in kicking him over towards the demon wouldn't be for nothing. Tanjiro eventually locates Hantengu's real body inside of the headless Hantengu's heart. Ultimately, the upper rank 4 finally dies after being slashed by Tanjiro, cutting the little demon's neck inside of the heart. By the way, if you want to know exactly what happened with Nezuko after this moment, then make sure to check out my video on the entire Swordsmith Village arc explained, and obviously, you know, that'll cover all of Season 3 of Demon Slayer as well, so if you're interested, go and check that out, because it'll keep you up to date with what's about to be animated. But anyway, moving on. Now we skip quite a bit further into the story here, as for one entire arc, Tanjiro and the crew, along with every single Demon Slayer core member that still remained and were able to fight at this point in the story, were trained by the various Hashiras in an attempt to get as strong as possible for the upcoming battle against Muzan and the remaining Upper-Kazuki demons. After the training arc comes to an end and the Infinity Castle arc starts, Kagaya Ubuyashiki and his family, who continue to live unguarded for over 1000 years, are finally confronted by the one and only Muzan Kibutsuji. During the conversation that followed, the Demon Lord is disturbed by Kagaya and his time on the mountain he spent with him. Instead, he wished he was back in his fortress, working on something else. He internally comments on the Ubuyashiki's weirdness, earning Kagaya's ire. He tells Muzan he himself graduated at the top of his class, and as the head of missions against the 12 Kazuki, is responsible for 300 deaths of young demon slayers. Kagaya also warns Muzan that the Hashira will be arriving soon, and that he will be engulfed in a storm that will kill him, directly threatening Muzan and angering him. Suddenly, and unexpectedly, the mountainside is destroyed in a massive explosion, wiping out Kagaya, Amain, their two daughters present, and completely destroying Muzan's body. Muzan curses Kagaya for sacrificing himself as a decoy, as he never thought he was willing to kill himself along with his family. Sadly though, with more of Demon Slayer's most brutal and horrific deaths, Shinobu Kocho comes face to face with a psychopathic megalomaniac, the upper rank 2, Douma. Now at the point in the battle of hedging her bets on injecting a large dose to kill him by using a 6-stab attack, Shinobu strikes him using her insect-breathing Dance of the Butterfly Compound Eye hexagon, and successfully hits him. However, as she attacks him, he simultaneously attacks her, cutting both her collarbone and ribs and puncturing one of her lungs. Finally, near her wit's end, and almost losing any hope of victory, Shinobu attempts to draw strength from playing her old sister's words of encouragement in her head. Shinobu then prepares to strike at Douma again, and uses her insect-breathing Dance of the Centipede 100-legged zigzag to confuse him. She strikes Douma directly through the neck, impaling him and sending him flying towards the ceiling. Exhausted and wounded, Shinobu is triumphant upon seeing Douma being poisoned and seemingly dying from her attack. However, Douma recovers almost instantly, by which Shinobu is further enraged. Now exhausted though, and fatally injured, and dangerously near death, Shinobu is caught by Douma. He embraces her in a bear hug, and begins mocking her and calling her entire attempt to defeat him a waste of effort, assuring her she will live peacefully as a part of him, and mocking her for her last words. She spitefully curses him as he begins to absorb and kill her. During another battle that takes place inside of Nakame's Infinity Castle, Zenitsu finds his former comrade Kaigaku, who had decided to become one of Muzan's demons after he came face to face with the upper rank one, Kokushibo. Zenitsu explains to Kaigaku that the former master Jigoro Kuwajima had committed seppuku upon learning that he defected to gain the powers of a demon, his death proving to be slow and agonizing since no one was there to finish him off in the correct way, leaving him to bleed out for hours alone. As the two continued to fight, after Zenitsu had told him about Jigoro's death, Kaigaku uses the thunder-breathing third form, Thunder Swarm. He says that those who judge him correctly and accept him for who he is are correct, and those who don't accept him are wrong. Kaigaku then uses the thunder-breathing fifth form, Heat Lightning, and taunts Zenitsu, praising his own Blood Demon enhanced forms. He explains that once his thunder-breathing forms slash Zenitsu's body, his skin and flesh would burn and crack apart. Kaigaku then continues his attack and uses the thunder-breathing sixth form, Rumble and Flash. While falling, Zenitsu reflects on its relationship with Kaigaku in the past, and he thinks how he and Kaigaku could not get along. While falling, he jumps onto a wall and uses his own breathing form he specifically made so that he could fight alongside Kagaku, the thunder-breathing 7th form Honokazuchi no Kami. Instantly, Kagaku is beheaded, and while falling, he still curses at Zenitsu. However, Zenitsu is rescued by Yushiro, and Yushiro mocks Kagaku, telling him that it is pathetic to die alone. Lying alone at the bottom of the Infinity Castle, Kagaku dies miserably, and Zenitsu is saved by his friends. Elsewhere, throughout the expanse of Infinity Castle, Giyu, Tanjiro, and Akaza are battling fiercely, trading blows with each other. The Water Hashira had used up all of his forms during the earlier parts of the battle, and Akaza proclaims that it will be the end of the Hashira. Even still, he was still amazed at how long he had fought for. As Giyu is about to attack the demon's fist, Akaza breaks Giyu's sword by using his prolific Bell Splitter technique, then attempts to punch through him, but all of a sudden, his arm is severed by Tanjiro, who had managed to enter the transparent world. The demon notes the changes in Tanjiro and tries to kill the young slayer, but Giyu took the moment to attack him. However, Akaza uses his strongest technique development, final form, blue-silver chaotic afterglow. Giyu tries to reduce it with his water-breathing 11th form Dead Calm, but the attacks were too random and too powerful to completely cancel out, and he gets hit by many shockwaves, despite managing to dodge several blows. Meanwhile, Tanjiro is able to see everything move slowly in the transparent world. Akaza is unable to notice that Tanjiro was behind him, and Giyu hopes that he goes for the neck in that instant. However, Tanjiro calls out the demon, and as Akaza turns to strike, Tanjiro dodges. Akaza realizes that he could not detect his fighting spirit via the compass, and because of this, Tanjiro manages to slip in and decapitate Akaza with the Hinokami Kagura Setting Sun transformation. Akaza was initially bewildered, wondering how Tanjiro did not have any fighting spirits. He acknowledged that Tanjiro surpassed his speed and comes to a realization that his domain of supremacy is nothing compared to the transparent world and a selfless state. He attempts to reattach his head back, but Giyu throws his broken sword, piercing the head and separating it from the body. After the head falls, it begins to disintegrate. However, his body continues to fight, using his technique, development, destructive death, compass needle again, which causes his head portion to begin regenerating. Tanjiro dodges his swing, but is thrown aside by the demon's kick. He tried to get up and fight, but the stress and exhaustion from the battle caused him to pass out. Giyu protects Tanjiro though, with the water-breathing 4th form Striking Tide, slicing the headless body in various regions, but again, the demon regenerates faster. The two begin trading blows. Although Giyu is badly hurt, he still focuses on protecting Tanjiro, which gives Akaza a random vague memory of Keizo, and as he advances, he is stopped by the teary-eyed spirit of his human self's deceased fiancée, Koyuki, telling him to just stop already. Akaza, or Hakuji as a human, disintegrates not too long after this. As Shinobu was being absorbed by Douma, her protege, Kano, had entered the room and actually had witnessed her death taking place. After an intense battle alone between the other two, Inosuke had managed to crash into the room and instantly began helping Kano and trying to defeat the man who in the past and even now had killed anyone of major importance in both of the young slayers' lives. After Douma got the news that Akaza had been defeated, he almost instantly decided to go and leave Kano and Inosuke to fight against his blood demon art, Crystalline Divine Child, which are just smaller clones of himself pretty much. However though, as the upper rank 2 opens the door to leave, Douma's face begins to melt. He fell to the floor with one of his arms snapping off, and his crystal children beginning to crack and disintegrate. Confused, he wonders what's happening, and Inosuke asks if it's a trap, but Kano, having been informed prior to the battle of Shinobu's true plan to kill Douma, tells him that it isn't, and that the demon is being melted by the poison Shinobu had in her body when he had consumed her. She tells Inosuke to aim for his neck to finish him off, and in a panic, Douma plays his final and most powerful card, the intensely beautiful Blood Demon Art Rime, Water Lily Bodhistiva. Douma's ice body Steve's statue slams down its hand on the floor of the room, creating a small earthquake that sends Inosuke and Kano up into the air. Kano notes that his technique lacks precision and was clearly the demon's last effort to protect himself with the little energy that he had left. Kano then decides to use her final form, the flower-breathing final form Equinoctial Vermilion Eye, to try and break through him. Douma's statue grabs Inosuke in one of its hands as Kano leaps towards the upper rank, hitting her blade against his neck. She is unable to cut it because she got frozen, so Inosuke on the spot comes up with a brand new technique and uses the beast-breathing, sudden throwing strike to hurl his blades at Kano to give it the extra strength to cut Douma's neck. They succeeded in beheading the upper rank too, and his statue began to disintegrate along with his body. The next death that comes up, in all honesty, is more or less 3 deaths. These deaths all happen in such a mental and brutal way throughout an extremely extensive and long fought fight, so if you guys do want more context around what exactly happens in between moments, then I do recommend you watch my entire Infinity Castle arc video explained, as it will give you much more of an understanding as to really how intense this part of the story truly is. I've decided to place the upper rank 1 Kokushibo, Genya Shinizugawa, and Muchiro Tokito into one section, as 2 of them are fatally wounded in the same attack and then pass away within seconds of each other, along with the final and 3rd death coming moments after. Anyways, back to it. So during an intense moment of the battle where all the Demon Slayers are attacking Kokushibo, the upper rank retaliates and attempts to cut them all down at the same time using his moon-breathing 14th form Catastrophe 10-man Crescent Moon, but they manage to dodge these swings and close the gap. Gyomei distracts Kokushibo's attention by flicking a prayer bead, allowing Sanemi to approach with the wind-breathing 1st form Dust Whirlwind Cutter, stunning the demon and allowing Gyomei to rip his right arm off with his flail. Kokushibo notices the approaching Mr. Hashira and attacks him, managing to sever the demon's leg, but not before being impaled in the stomach with his insurance sword. After having eaten the hair and blade, Genya emerges from the shadows, now fully transformed into a demon, and fires at Kokushibo, and despite him deflecting the bullets off, they all still went back to his body as if they had sentience and punctured through his skin. The bullets then transformed into a large wooden tree, constricting him to the ground and protecting Muchiro from his attacks. After a short flashback, Kokushibo roars at the absolute top of his lungs in anger and frustration, and as he roars, dozens of chaotic slashes release from his body, cutting Muchiro's lower half of his body clean off, guaranteeing his death, along with cutting Genya in half vertically. Genya though, still has enough strength to defend everyone somehow, with Muchiro also wanting to protect Sanemi and Gyomei from death against Kokushibo. Muchiro tells himself to unleash a technique or do something in order to help save Sanemi and Gyomei. Then suddenly, by gripping his Nichiren swords with all the force that he has left, the entire blade turns a bright red, burning the flesh and organs where he had stabbed Kokushibo. Genya also realizes that his flesh bullets are still within Kokushibo's body, and with him wanting to protect everyone from certain death, unleashes his blood demon art, Blood Roots, with another flesh tree rooting out of the upper rank's back. Gyomei swings his axe upwards to cut Kokushibo's necks, but he blocks it with his flesh sword. However, Sanemi swings his blade at Gyomei's flail in order to give it more momentum. But little did he know that due to both Gyomei and him awakening the Demon Slayer marks and clamming their swords together, their Nichiren weapons turned bright red as well. Because of this, they are capable of bypassing the upper rank's durability and regeneration. Thus, Kokushibo has been beheaded. However, while stuck in his thoughts, he expresses that the mere thought of losing makes him seethe with anger, and because of this, he suddenly stops bleeding and starts to regenerate his own head, similar but far quicker than Akaza. Sanemi shouts out that he will hack and slash Kokushibo until he is nothing but ash, and unleashes the wind-breathing 8th form Primary Gale Slash, while Gyomei utilizes the stone-breathing 5th form Arcs of Justice. In order to free himself from the barrage of attacks, Kokushibo chops off Muchiro's remaining arm, the last of his limbs, and as he fell from his sword, all life left in the young Muchiro Tokito had vanished. Still attacking, Sanemi sees that the upper rank's head had fully regrown, and panics as all the effort they had done to behead him was a complete waste. However, before they commence a new fight, the upper rank sees his own reflection off of Sanemi's sword. The moment Kokushibo sees his reflection, a vague memory of Yoruichi telling him Kokushibo's dream was to be the strongest samurai in the nation, with himself wanting to be the second, behind his elder brother. As Kokushibo questions himself and his horrid form, the spot where Michiro stabbed him with his bright red blade begins to burn to ash, spreading throughout his body. Sanemi and Gyomei continue to maul Kokushibo's body in order to stop it from regenerating, while the upper rank tries to unleash a blood demon art but can't due to him losing an abnormal amount of blood, but knows that he can still regenerate fast enough to survive. With that being said, Yoruichi is still heart-wrenched from seeing his brother as a demon, and Kokushibo can't regenerate anymore and finds his body finally starting to give up, when Muchiro had stuck his sword. As his final moments pass, Kokushibo questions and blames his own existence, finally asking his little brother, why? Why was he even born in the first place? Before completely disintegrating. As the battle finished, Genya weakly asks out if his brother is okay, and for his respects and wishes, Gyomei lays Sanemi's unconscious but alive body in front of Genya, proving to him that he is alright. Gyomei points out to Muchiro's quadruple mutilated body, saying that without both his and Genya's help, they wouldn't have had no chance at even beheading the upper rank. With him shedding tears, Gyomei closes Muchiro's eyes and vows to complete their mission to defeat Muzan. Sanemi shouts at his brother to not die and calls God to not kill his only sibling left, with him screaming at the top of his lungs, crying as his brother finally fades away. Once Akaza, Douma, and Kokushibo have successfully been eliminated, it is revealed that Muzan has revived himself and evolved his body into a new form. After swiftly dealing with the Demon Slayer squads sent after him, literally knocking off like 100-odd Demon Slayers, Muzan holds up the detached head of Tamio. As he stares her down, he declares that the drug was a failure. Tamio curses Muzan to hell, only for him to declare that he will not be defeated, as hundreds of humans have said the same thing as her. In Tamio's last moments, she pleads for Muzan to give her family back, but instead, he tells her to return to the side of the family she killed, crushing her skull afterward, killing her in that final moment. Later, during the beginning of Tanjiro and Gyu's fight with Muzan, the latter reveals that Nekime has successfully defeated both Obunai and Mitsuri by crushing them both to death using the rooms of her castle. However, he is taken by surprise when the supposedly dead duo launches a surprise attack on him, still very much alive. Muzan angrily asks Nekime what she's doing, but to no answer. Muzan is shocked upon learning that Yushiro has completely taken control over Nekime's vision, and with it, the Infinity Castle, which he begins to use against the Demon King as revenge for his killing of Tamio. Muzan immediately begins countering Yushiro, using his own mental powers in order to take back his final upper rank, which kicks off a fierce battle of wills between the two demons. And just as Muzan appears to have taken the upper hand, Obunai and Gyu launch an attack on the Demon Lord. He has no choice because of this, but to counter, which causes his hold on Nekime to slip as he tried to defend himself and ward the Hashiras off with his own attacks. Soon realizing that he cannot take Nekime back and fight with the Demon Slayers at the same time, Muzan uses his power to kill his final upper rank by crushing her head. As we finally come to the end of the Infinity Castle arc, the entire fortress explodes upon the death of Nekime, with every Demon Slayer that still remained somehow making it to the surface, escaping the crumbling dimension in order to finally fight Muzan out in the open under the open moon. So, for these final 4 deaths that happen throughout the story, I'm going to significantly shorten a huge portion of this last battle against Muzan. This is mainly due to the fact that, like the fight against Kokushibo, so many things happen throughout this period of time that results in the death of 4 people. So it would be very confusing if I was constantly to repeat the same things over and over again. So more or less, I will state what happens throughout this battle that results in the deaths of these people, like the wounds that they take, and then finally, the moments that they pass on afterwards. So let's get to it. Already partway through the Sunrise Countdown arc, with Tanjiro heavily afflicted by the poison in Muzan's blood, he comes closer to death, and the remaining Hashira gets slashed and cut by Muzan's attacks. Mitsuri gets the worst of Muzan's barrage, and just as she was about to get impaled by one of Muzan's arm tentacles, a sudden impact destroys the tentacle, saving Mitsuri. Her saviour turns out to be Gyomei, coming to everyone's surprise, especially the Demon Kings. Sanemi appears behind their Demon Lord and slices him vertically. As Muzan regenerates, the Wind Hashira throws multiple glasses of oil at the Demon Lord, in which the latter whips all into little shards, which spills liquid all over him. Sanemi soon lights a match and tosses it at the demon, lighting him entirely on fire. Angered, Muzan's attacks keep getting fiercer, adding more pressure onto the Hashira. Gyomei even points out that due to him not being able to access this so-called transparent world, it is a gamble to be able to dodge the Demon King's attacks with little to no injuries. Mitsuri, however, is getting the worst of the Hashira's damage, only being able to dodge purely on instinct and luck alone. This deeply impacts her resolve on being able to help her fellow Hashira defeat Muzan. She quickly plans on trying to get behind the latter and twists his arms back behind his back in order to stall for time and help the others gain some hits on the Demon Lord, even if she sacrifices her life in doing so. Muzan attacks her, and the attack ruptures multiple tissues of flesh and skin off her left side, including her arm, abdomen, and cheek, subsequently confirming her demise. With the other Hashira pressing on Muzan Kibutsuji, Obonai carries Mitsuri to a fellow demon slayer and orders them to find Yushiro. Mitsuri, however, still tries to get up and convince Obonai on letting her continue to fight, saying that she won't hold back at all this time and won't be a burden to anyone. Obonai quickly rejects her, while telling her that she has done enough to help the Demon Slayer Corps against the demon race. While Obonai quickly sprints back into the battlefield, Mitsuri bursts into tears and begs Obonai to not die, and neither should anyone else. As Mitsuri bawls, Obonai accepts to himself that he must die defeating Muzan to cleanse his own blood in order to reincarnate as an innocent being with the reincarnation of Mitsuri by his side. The bandages then fall off his face, revealing serpent-like scars spreading across his entire face. The battle again moved forward, with the Demon Slayers slowly taking more and more damage over time, and as Obonai was commenting to himself about his red blade, Sanemi yells to alert the former of one of Muzan's tentacles coming straight towards him. Giyu tries to save Obonai from Muzan's attacks, but was too late. However, Obonai is somehow straight up in the air, dodging Muzan's attacks. The Demon Lord whips one of his arm tentacles at the Serpent Hashira, but he somehow dodges it again. Adding to Muzan's confusion, his arm that attacked Obonai gets cut clean off without him seeing the actual cause. Suddenly, the same cut happens again, with him realizing that only a blade with ridges could cut like that. The Demon King suddenly realizes that they are here. Knowing that they are invisible due to Tamio's assistant's blood demon art, Muzan lashes whips at what seems like thin air, but it soon appears to be Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Kano, along with the blindfolds made by Yushiro. Sanemi puts on one of Yushira's blindfolds, and when he does, he sees Inosuke exclaiming to the others that he also wants to have his blades to be bright red, and uses his wind-breathing 7th form Gale's sudden gusts on Muzan. As both Gyomei and Iguro begin to be able to see into the transparent world, Muzan Kibutsuji flails his tendrils and arm tentacles even crazier than before, causing a huge explosion and shaking the battlefield. With Goto peeking over a wall after the explosion, he sees none of the Hashira or other fellow demon slayers fighting Muzan, and wonders what had just happened. He leans out even more, and he sees Gyomei crashed into the building he was hiding behind, with his left leg knee down, completely demolished. Sanemi was also launched onto nearly the top of a nearby building. Giyu crashed onto the bottom of another with his right arm cut off. Obonai and Zenitsu were also thrown onto another building, and Inosuke collapsed onto the ground with one of his Nichiren swords broken. After this point in the battle, only really Tanjiro will rally the main force in trying to hold off Muzan until dawn. As Tanjiro tries to hold Muzan down as much as possible until dawn arrives, the Demon King tries to slash and stab the young boy with his arm tentacles, but his left arm gets grabbed by Mitsuri Kanroji. Shedding tears, she yells at Muzan and completely rips off his arm, in that moment sacrificing both of her arms. Instantly, Sanemi is then shown cutting Muzan's arm clean off with the wind-breathing 8th form primary Gale slash. He then pins it at another point in the wall, preventing it from reassembling back to the latter's body. With that happening, the Demon King's face and torso split apart vertically, exposing huge jaws and teeth as he tries to consume Tanjiro in order to conquer the sun. The latter forces himself to not let go at all as it is almost dawn. However, Obanai goes in front of Tanjiro in the nick of time and shields him from Muzan's jaws. Sanemi shouts to everyone to keep holding as dawn has just arrived. As dawn arrives, the very moment Muzan sees the sun, horror runs through his body and he unleashes his shockwave technique one final time, knocking everyone back except for Tanjiro, whose entire left arm gets torn off by the attack. Despite the chaos that's happening, Tanjiro keeps holding onto his blade as hard as he possibly can in order to turn it bright red, with him saying Kyojiro's words yet again, "Set your heart ablaze." Miraculously, Gyu comes to Tanjiro's aid and with his other remaining arm grabs a hold of Tanjiro's Nichiren sword as well. With the might of both Demon Slayers, the blade successfully becomes bright red. As the blade becomes red, Muzan coughs out blood, and with the sun shining more and more, he screeches at the top of his lungs with horror. Muzan then points out that if he shrinks himself, he'll burn away instantly. Thus, in order for him to have a chance to survive, he must protect himself with a mass of flesh. His body expands in all directions, turning himself into a gigantic demonic infant. Coming to everyone's shock, the giant infant absorbs Tanjiro into its body and crawls around the building in order to get to the shade. Everyone tries as hard as they can to try and stop the giant infant from entering the shade. A dozen or more Kakashi push a tram in order to block the infant from taking shelter from the sun. As the baby tries to topple over the tram and smash into the Kakashi with its right hand, Sanemi leaps into the air and unleashes the wind-breathing ninth form Eduden Typhoon, chopping the infant's hand clean off. Just as the infant was about to topple the bus over, a chain of iron wraps around the giant's neck, pulling it away from the tram. Gyu comes back in the fight and uses the water-breathing 10th form Constant Flux on the demon infant, but does not do nearly as much damage as the others due to him only having one arm left. Sanemi joins back in, using water-breathing 5th form Cold Mountain, along with Obanai Iguro using the serpent-breathing 4th form Twin-Headed Serpent. Despite all their combined attacks on the Demon King, it does not stop the giant infant from burrowing into the ground. As Gyomei's chains begin to snap from inside the giant infant, Tanjiro continues to grip his Nichiren sword as hard as he can, making its bright red color linger. From this, the infant throws up a lot of blood from its mouth, stopping it from digging any deeper into the ground. Being unable to escape the sun in any way, the demonic infant wails and bawls as it continues to disintegrate. Thus, finally, the Demon Lord Muzan Kibutsuji himself is finally dead and defeated forever. Okay, well, I'm going to stop there for when it comes to the death of the originator of demons, Muzan Kibutsuji, as that is the point that his physical form disintegrates. If you want me to cover like Muzan's death more specifically, or just like other parts of, I guess, Demon Slayer, like specific battles or just other things throughout it, then let me know down in the comment section below, or feel free to watch my Sunrise Countdown Arc explain video, as that covers this entire battle itself pretty much, as the entire Sunrise Countdown Arc is pretty much this entire battle. Anyway, back to the final 3 deaths of this story, which if you haven't realized, the 3 deaths are those of the 3 Hashira who sustained the most damage throughout this final battle. As the Kakashi who remained after the battle run up to Gyomei, who is gravely wounded, and line up against the wall, he tells them to go and focus on the young ones, as that is his final wish. After this, Gyomei slips into a peaceful sleep where he sees all of the orphans he used to care for, all waiting for him and apologizing for not listening to him on the night of their deaths. They tell him that they all love him and that it is now finally time to go. On the other side of the street, both gravely injured and missing multiple limbs, Iguro and Mitsuri lay on the ground together. As Mitsuri breaks down after all the lovely things that Iguro had said to her, she asks him that if they ever get reborn, and both as humans, would he make her his wife? To which Iguro tells her that of course, he will definitely make her happy and protect her in their second life. The two of them pass away not too long after this. Well, that officially brings us to the very end of all of the deaths that have happened throughout this wonderful and amazing story that is Kimetsu no Yaiba. Honestly, if you guys have enjoyed this video and want to see like all of the deaths that happened in the past before the story exactly started, so like all of the historic deaths I guess you could say, then let me know down in the comment section below and I'll be sure to make a video on those as well. As you know, like obviously you've got Yoruichi's death there and a few of the other ones that are extremely interesting from the past before the story started exactly. I just wanted to make this in the chronological kind of order so you kind of get an idea of what happens exactly throughout the story and who dies in the main story from the very beginning to the very end. So I hope you did obviously all enjoy the video. If you guys didn't realize as well, I also hit 50k, so I just want to thank everyone who has been like honestly supporting me and watching my Demon Slayer videos over the last like I think 2 or 3 months now. It has been pretty hectic obviously with all the takedowns that I had over the last month, but honestly the support has been unmeasurable and I don't know what I would honestly be doing without you guys. This literally is a dream for me and I really cannot thank you guys enough for being able to get my channel to 50,000 subscribers, which is just unbelievable. And me talking about it seems like kind of surreal because I used to always, you know, like watch YouTube videos of other people talking about like subscriber milestones or like these big milestones and hitting them and then hitting another milestone, and it's kind of like crazy to finally be in this like weird position, and I really can't thank you guys enough for, you know, like turning my like hobby and my like enjoyment of reading and watching anime into my actual job is unbelievable. So I really can't thank you guys enough. You know, I can't thank my family enough for being able to support me for the first, you know, half a year while I delved into kind of this career of wanting to try YouTube. So like my mum supporting me is probably the most amazing thing, and you know, shout out to my mum because I honestly would never be able to have gotten to this position if it wasn't for her, and you guys as well. So thank you, and thank you for everything over the last year now, because I think pretty much now it has been a year since I uploaded my first like Jujutsu Kaisen videos. So getting 50,000 subscribers in my first year when I thought I was going to get 5,000 is really mind-blowing, and honestly you know, like I expected 5,000 like I just said, but that was like a dream to be able to hit 5,000, and then in the second year I thought I would maybe be able to hit 15 or something like that. But now it's like I'm looking at the idea of possibly trying to hit 100,000 by the end of this year, and it really blows my mind. So I cannot thank you guys enough for the support and the love that you have been giving me. But anyway, like I said, if you guys have enjoyed the video, then make sure to leave a like. And also, if you are new around here and want to watch more stuff just like this for other series, you know, like more explained, story-styled content in the anime world, then make sure you also hit that subscribe button. But anyway, for now, it's been your professional degenerate, Diavolo, and I will see you all in a bit. Bye.